The notion that global warming is a war by the mainstream media against Christianity may seem far-fetched to some, but it is an idea that has been gaining traction in certain circles. Proponents of this theory argue that the media's relentless coverage of climate change is not just about raising awareness of an environmental issue, but rather a concerted effort to undermine the values and principles of Christianity. To understand this perspective, it is essential to examine the underlying themes and messages that are often implicit in the media's reporting on global warming. One of the primary concerns of those who believe that the media is waging a war against Christianity through the issue of global warming is the perceived emphasis on human-caused climate change. They argue that this narrative is often presented in a way that dismisses the role of God or high power in shaping the Earth's climate. By attributing climate change solely to human activities, the media is seen as promoting a worldview that is inherently at odds with the biblical account of creation. This, in turn, is viewed as an attack on the very foundations of the Christian faith. Moreover, the language and tone used by the media to describe climate change often have apocalyptic overtones, with phrases such as climate catastrophe and tipping point being used to convey a sense of urgency and alarm. While this may be intended to motivate people to take action, it can also be seen as a form of secular eschatology, where the media is presenting a narrative of human salvation that competes with the Christian message of redemption and hope. This perceived hijacking of biblical themes and motifs is viewed by some as a form of cultural appropriation, where the media is using the emotional resonance of Christian ideas to promote a secular agenda. Another aspect of the media's coverage of global warming that is often cited as evidence of a war against Christianity is the tendency to villainize those who question or reject the idea of human-caused climate change. Skeptics are often labeled as deniers or climate skeptics, which can be seen as a form of linguistic marginalization. This kind of language is reminiscent of the way that heretics were treated in the past, or those who dared to challenge the dominant orthodoxy were ostracized and ridiculed. By using similar tactics to silence or discredit those who question the climate change narrative, the media is seen as perpetuating a form of intellectual McCarthyism that is hostile to dissenting voices, including those of Christians who may hold different views on the issue. The media's focus on global warming has also led to a renewed emphasis on the idea of stewardship of the earth, which can be seen as a form of secularized Christian theology. While the idea of caring for the environment is certainly a biblical principle, the way that it is presented in the media often strips it of its spiritual context and reduces it to a purely pragmatic or utilitarian concern. This can be seen as a form of theological reductionism, where the rich and complex traditions of Christian thought are boiled down to a simplistic or pragmatic ethos that is more concerned with saving the planet than with saving souls. In conclusion, while the idea that global warming is a war by the mainstream media against Christianity may seem exaggerated or even paranoid to some, it is a perspective that is rooted in a deep sense of unease and discontent among certain segments of the Christian community. The media's coverage of climate change is often seen as a form of cultural aggression, where the values and principles of Christianity are being subtly or overtly undermined in favor of a secular or environmentalist worldview. Whether or not one agrees with this perspective, it is essential to recognize the concerns and anxieties that are driving it and to engage in a more nuanced and respectful dialogue about the complex and multifaceted issues that surround the topic of global warming.